Floorball players complain about a lot of things, so today I picked 5 of the biggest complaints and put them to the test. Let's start with blade curve, because this is probably one of the most debated things in floorball. Every player has their own preference. Some want almost no curve. Some bend the blade a lot because they feel it helps with control and shooting. And the strange part is how much even tiny changes actually affect everything. So I tested the same shot with different blade setups, and immediately the difference becomes noticeable. A straighter blade keeps shots cleaner and lower, but once you add more curve, the ball starts lifting much easier. That can help when shooting, but it also makes mistakes much bigger. And there's another problem players always complain about. Even when you try to build the same curve again, it almost never becomes exactly identical. You bend it once, it feels good. You adjust again later, and somehow it feels completely different. Even when visually it looks almost the same. So players spend a lot of time trying to find that exact blade shape again. And when I tested it myself, that complaint makes complete sense, because even tiny differences change how the ball leaves the blade. And repeating exactly the same curve is much harder than it sounds, so I'm sticking with no curve for now. One complaint every player knows: simple passes suddenly become difficult. So I tested flat passes first. Controlled speed, normal technique. And when everything is clean, the pass looks easy. But once you increase speed slightly, or change blade angle just a little, things change fast. The ball starts bouncing. Sometimes it lifts slightly into the air, sometimes it arrives much harder to control than expected. And that's what makes this complaint so frustrating. Because from outside, it looks like a basic mistake. But when you repeat passes many times, you notice how little margin there actually is. A small difference in blade angle changes the whole pass. Too much force, and the ball becomes unpredictable. Which explains why players get annoyed when simple passing suddenly fails. Because often it feels correct, but behaves differently anyway. This video is brought to you by Floorball Frenzy. If you want floorball training programs, shooting guides, stick handling drills, and practical ways to improve faster, check out floorballfrenzy.com. It's built for players who want structured training that actually transfers into games. Now let's continue. Next complaint, the floor itself. This sounds simple, but floorball players constantly talk about how different floors completely change how the game feels. Some floors feel fast, some feel sticky, some make the ball move perfectly, others make everything feel unpredictable. I couldn't actually test other floors for this video, but I can tell you that it feels a lot worse to play wooden floors rather than the actual floorball floor. If the floor has even small differences in grip, your body movement changes without noticing. That changes timing. And timing changes everything in floorball. Even quick turns feel different. One step grips perfectly, another feels slightly less secure, which explains why players instantly notice bad floor conditions. Because the floor changes more than people watching usually understand. Next complaint, grip. A fresh grip always feels amazing. Sticky, comfortable, controlled. So I started by testing with a newer grip. Immediately, everything feels clean. Shots feel controlled, passing feels easy. But after repeated shots and movement, you start noticing the difference. The grip slowly stops feeling as secure, and once you compare it with an older grip, the difference becomes obvious. The stick moves slightly more inside your hand. That tiny movement is enough to affect control, especially when you try quick shots or faster passes. And that explains why players replace grip so often, because once grip starts slipping, everything else starts feeling harder too. Now I tested another complaint players mention all the time. The shot feels good, but somehow looks slow. First few shots felt normal. Clean release, solid contact. But when you repeat them and compare carefully, you notice something interesting. Two shots can feel almost identical, but one clearly comes out slower. And the reason is usually tiny technical differences. A slightly late release, ball position slightly wrong, not enough flex loaded. And because floorball shots happen so quickly, even tiny timing differences become obvious in speed. So this complaint is actually very real too. Sometimes the shot genuinely feels stronger than it looks. Last complaint, sticks breaking. Because every player knows how painful that is. And that's why this complaint feels real. Sticks usually don't break immediately. They weaken first. Then, one harder impact finishes the job, which means every hard contact suddenly feels expensive. So after testing all of these, it turns out floorball players actually complain for good reasons. Blade curve changes more than expected, grip matters a lot, passing is more sensitive than it looks, and flex can help or ruin a shot depending on how you use it. If you want, comment the next floorball complaint I should test.